Thank you again. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. Again, sorry that it's not in person. I would love to be up there. Obviously, the weather is not making that possible. I will make my remarks brief. If there are questions, certainly we'll be happy to take them. And I'll hopefully let you get on with your meeting so that you can get home and be safe. Uh, as Erlinda was mentioning, the way I think about it is the priesthood of all believers. That's our frame in terms of, again, being baptized. As I think about that as everybody's ordination. And all of us have gifts to offer and to share for the upbuilding of the body of Christ in the world, and certainly for living out, again, the call that God gives to us. I think that the time that I've spent with your congregation in person in the fall and then in Zoom meetings, I've been very impressed with the leadership that you have. Thank you to Erlinda and the council, to Ralph and the transition team and the work that they've all done. Um, I, my sense is that you all are in a very good place. With Pastor Ziegler leaving at the end of November, you had already worked through the CAT, the Congregational Assessment Tool. That information, along with other meetings and conversations, was brought together by the Transition Committee to create the ministry site profile. We have that on file at the Synod, and that is what we will be presenting to potential candidates as they are looking to come into New England or to maybe transfer in New England. Those clergy will give them your ministry site profile. But now the work really moves to the call committee that was um, put in place today, and we had that liturgy for the call committee taking their position. I will be meeting with them, and we'll be developing basically the plan, many questions for interviewing, and a process for doing that, which will not take long at all. And I would hope that they will be receiving names shortly. We'll be in conversation about those names, and they'll receive what are called um, it's the rostered minister profile, the RMP. That's what the call committee will receive. Some people may have remembered a process that was a few years ago, and at that time, there was only one person at a time that would be interviewed. This is a practice that goes way back, and I think there are a number of reasons for it. I remember it in the early aughts as a part of Margaret Payne's bishopric, and part of that I think it was intended so that churches were focusing on the abilities of the pastor and their own gifts as a parish, and recognizing that there's no, you know, even Jesus couldn't probably get a call today in a parish. So it's trying to understand what are your gifts and what are the gifts that you need to fill out the ministry that you would do together. There's also a reality, I think, at the time in the early aughts around sexism that existed in the church and women not always having an equal standing when it came to interviewing. And so having congregations interview one at a time really made congregations recognize whether or not this person was, a potential candidate. In the time just of recent past with COVID, there were so few names that I think that the synod had a practice of, again, offering congregations one name at a time. We've decided to move away from that and to offer, a few names to the call committee. So they'll be looking at some names, they'll be having conversations around the various candidates, and eventually, deciding on who it is that they would like to interview. They will interview. Given that some people may be in the New England Synod, there is an opportunity for in person, but a lot of the initial meetings probably will take place via Zoom. When the call committee discovers or settles on a candidate, and that may be done through a couple meetings, they will put forward that name to the council. The council would then meet, and they would meet with the candidate. Um, the council will develop a compensation package that would be um, would be talked about with the candidate beforehand. And in the meeting with the council, there would be approval of the candidate as well as the compensation. And then all of those things taking place, then the candidate would be brought before the parish for a parish meeting. Generally, most congregations have a 2 week notice that needs to be made for a special congregational meeting. The candidate would be present in worship, leading worship, preaching, and then at the end there would be a congregational meeting where the vote would be taken. There would be actually two votes taken. One is to approve the candidate. That would be a 2/3 majority, and then there's a vote on the compensation, which is a simple majority. Um, Given, there may be some candidates in New England that hopefully makes some of the meetings and transportation, a little easier. If candidates are in other locations, other states, there are people who have put their name in to be a part of the New England Synod. And if those individuals are desired, again, the congregation would be expected to, pay for the transportation for meetings and the like. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Mainly, I think what you're looking at right now is the work of the call committee is beginning. They will be receiving names shortly, and hopefully there will be some names coming forth, or a name coming forth to the council sooner than later. Uh, Obviously, we rely on the Spirit being at work, and um, we can work and plan, and then we have to also give ourselves up to the Spirit, what God is calling, or who God may be calling to Holy Trinity. So that's kind of a brief overview. I hope that's helpful. If there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
We do have one question. So, Mark, hear me by virtue of being here. Pastor Mark, you mentioned that the congregation might receive multiple candidates. Could you also clarify if those candidates might be in more than one process at the same time? In other words, could a candidate have their name in multiple congregations?
Yes, the names that we have on file, roster minister profiles we have on file. People are looking at other calls potentially. Um, we can discuss that with them and communicate that with the call committee if that is if that's a concern. Um, my sense is, at least with the process that we've been a part of, um, the candidates that have been interviewed recently over the last year have not had their names in other calls, but that may be just that there weren't other calls available in synods, or the churches in those synods weren't looking at that particular candidate, but they do have their names out. For instance, somebody from Minnesota looking to looking at another call is probably going to say that, they're open to a call in New England, they're open to a call somewhere else in Minnesota, perhaps in an adjacent state. So their names are, their rostered minister profiles are more often than not are in other synods as well. So they have the potential to be interviewed. I should also say that because of our connection to ecumenical partners, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Congregationalists, those are individuals who could be looked at as well if the congregation felt that there was a fit. Obviously, we're served by an Episcopal priest most recently, and so that is also a possibility. It's not just Lutherans who are looking for positions, but it could be opened up to others if you know of individuals. And we've been in conversation with the Diocese of New Hampshire, in terms of managing this call.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Pastor Mark.
Thank you, and all the best to you. And we'll certainly be in touch. And I know the call committee will be communicating with the congregation as well as things move along.
Thank you. Stay safe and warm.
Yep. Peace be with you all.
No,